Hello there, my name's Annette with Sunbeam Fabric Art. Welcome to my channel. I recently went to a seminar and I got this wonderful little free tote bag. I really loved the shape of it. It held so much stuff when I came home with all my swag. Not only did it have a nice zip top and nice strong handles, each side of the bag had pockets. One had 2 pockets and one just had 1 pocket. Now, I am not interested in taking this bag apart and remaking it because I'm going to keep this bag as long as it lasts, but I do want to make another bag with approximately the same sizes and same features. This bag was constructed with a front panel, a back panel, and then the top and the sides and the bottom were all connected to each other and then attached with this interesting binding method on the outside of the bag. I pulled some accessories out of my stash. I've got 3 zippers. I haven't decided which one to use. I've got some D-rings. Those will come in handy if I ever want to attach a shoulder strap to the bag I'm going to make. And I've got some nylon straps. Now all I have to do is pick measurements and start making this bag. I'll make sure and put my measurements in the description of the video. But don't be afraid to customize a bag and make it any way you want to. I want to make a quilted bag, so I am cutting out some nice big pieces of batting for the front and the back of my bag. I also cut out batting for the top, sides, and bottom of the bag. I will leave a link in the description for this fabric bolt and how I made it. I get asked a lot what I am going to do with it. I just pull it out anytime I want some scrappy fabric and I have a project to make. I just pull out my fabric bolt and use it up. I cut out all the pieces I needed for the front and the back of my bag, and then for the top and the sides and the bottom of my bag. And I'm cutting these pieces out a little bit bigger than I actually need. I picked out some cute confetti fabric from my stash and I cut matching lining pieces, and then I started pinning my pieces together so I could quilt them. The top of the bag is going to have a zipper, so that is going to be one single piece. For the left and right sides and the bottom of the bag, I created one long piece. With all my pieces for the bag ready to go, I did some quilting. You can choose to quilt however you like. I'm going to show you a sample of what I decided to do. I just did a little serpentine stitch and just quilted straight lines. Once all the quilting was done, I did trim all these pieces to uniform sizes. For my U-shaped piece, that is the left, the right, and the bottom of the bag, I made sure and put clips in where the fold was going to be, just so I wouldn't lose track of what was going to get attached where. Step 1 for me is attaching straps to the front and the back of the bag. I decided on where I wanted the straps to be placed, and then I pinned the 2 ends of the strap in place so I could sew them on. I'm attaching these about 5 inches across and 5 inches down from each side of the bag. Next, I'm going to make sure these straps are very securely attached. Here's a look at the stitching I did for each strap. After getting both straps attached securely, I used a safety pin to pin the loose end of the strap, the handle part, to the middle of the side. The next thing I wanted to do was add the side pockets. So remember, I put clips in so I could tell where the fold was going to be for the U shape. And I am just going to top stitch on some pockets. Now I liked the idea that one side of the bag had one pocket and the other side had two pockets. I picked some scrappy fabric out of my stash and then I just sewed it together with some backing fabric, turned that right side out to make my pockets. I'm not too worried about the width of these pockets. That will get trimmed off later, but I do want to make sure they're long enough. And I wanted my pockets, the two big pockets, to be 8 inches. And then the secondary pocket was going to be half that, so 4 inches. Once I got that first seam done, I went ahead and pressed that nice and flat. Next, I trimmed 3 sides of my pocket. Then I flipped each pocket back right sides together, and then I stitched the opposite side from the first seam. I did measure to make sure that pocket was going to be the length I wanted it to be. And what we end up with is a little bitty tube. Now the sides are open, but those will be enclosed in seams later on, so we're not going to worry about those right now. I did press all 3 pockets nice and flat. The last thing I did on these pockets was just to do a little top stitching. Then for the side that has 2 pockets, I stitched that 4-inch pocket to the bottom of the 8-inch pocket. Next, I grabbed my U-shaped piece that is going to be the sides and the bottom of the bag, and I lined up each pocket towards the fold. I didn't care if it went all the way down to the bottom of the fold, but I just stitched the bottom of the pocket to my U-shaped piece. I added some clips to hold the top of the pocket in place. I did the same thing with the double pocket that goes on the opposite side of the bag. For this bag, I wanted to attach some D-rings, just in case I want to attach a shoulder strap to this bag. I'm using this little piece of scrap fabric that was in my bin. I'm going to fold it in upon itself a couple of different times to make a D-ring casing. And then I will cut it to the same length for each side and attach it to that top side of the U-shape. I top stitched down both sides of the casing. I cut 2 equal pieces, and then placing the D-ring through my casing, I stitched that casing very well. I did some extra top stitching to hold it securely to the top of my U-shape. Now this edge is going to be joined to the top, which is the zipper panel, so there will be extra stitching to hold that D-ring in place as well. To make my top panel, I cut it in half, and I'm going to be attaching the zipper in the middle. But I want some casing to cover up those rough edges before I stitch on my zipper. I'm also going to need more casing or binding, if you will, to stitch the front and the back of the bag to that U-shape panel and the top. So I stitched all my strips together so I would have a nice long binding piece, and then I did press that flat. Next, I cut 2 pieces that were the right length for my zipper casing. I stitched the casing first to the right side of my panel. I folded it over to the inside of the bag, and I folded it over on itself to hide the raw edges, and then I top stitched that casing down. Now these zippers are designed to be just stitched on top of your fabric, so I did that, made sure everything was lined up correctly and that my zipper was going to work. This part of the bag is where things start getting a little more difficult. So I'm going to take my zipper panel and I'm going to attach it to one side of my U-shape. And you'll notice that I'm placing the lining sides together. Next, I took the opposite side of the zipper panel and I did the same thing, attaching it to the opposite side of the U-shape, making sure that my lining fabrics were together on the inside. Now I am going to bind each of these 2 seams. So I'm going to sew my casing on the zipper panel first. Then I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I will be flipping that casing around to the opposite side, folding it under on itself to get a finished edge, and then top stitching it on the other side. Again, once that is stitched the first time, we can trim off the excess bulk, flip it around to the other side, fold up our casing so we don't have any raw edge, and then top stitch that down. Once both of these zipper sides are attached to the U-shape, we now have an O shape, and this O shape is going to be attached to the front and the back panels of the bag. So the most important thing in lining this up is making sure the front panel and the back panel straps are going up on the same side as your zipper panel. So it was getting a little unhandy for me working with the top zipper panel first, so I switched to do the bottom of the bag first. And what I'm doing is I'm putting in a few clips, and then I'm going to go back over this side with the casing and clip it down with many more clips. So as you get to the end of a side, you have to work this rectangle, getting it all the way around your O shape. It's kind of a challenge, but by using clips and getting it all clipped in place first, it makes it a little easier later. Once you get all the way around your O shape, this is kind of what you're going to have. I do have a little tail end at the end, and I'm just going to fold that under so there's no raw edge showing when I get around to it. Once you get all the way around, like I said, you can just trim off that excess tail and fold it under so you get a nice finished edge. Then we're going to take that casing and fold it up to the opposite side, making sure we don't have any raw edges. So I folded it over 2 or 3 times. Then I clipped it all in place, and then I went all the way around the O on the opposite side. The corners were the very hardest part. I did have to use my tweezers at times to make sure the fabric was not getting bunched up underneath the corner. So here's a look. We do see that our handle is facing the right direction towards the zipper, and we want to make sure that zipper is open before we stitch on the other panel. We are going to attach this panel the same way we did the opposite panel. I'm going around all the edges, attaching the panel to the O shape with clips and getting that casing on there. Once I get the casing attached on side 1, I'm going to fold the casing over to the other side, clip it down, and then we'll stitch that as well into place. I did use about a 3/8 inch seam going on these casings. I just wanted to make sure I got all the fabric enclosed in my seam. Once that casing is all done, it is time to turn this bag right side out. This bag was pretty difficult, but I like all the features that are on it. I've got this D-ring for a shoulder strap. I've got these side pockets. You could easily put side pockets on the inside as well, or you could put a D-ring on the inside as well and maybe attach a little wallet or something to that. And here is a look at this finished scrappy tote. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you back again real soon.